I'm Paul Levinson, and welcome to Light On, Light Through, episode 378. Why I think it's such a bad idea to ban TikTok in the United States. So here are the facts, and I'll try to be as clear as possible. Just last week, in case you haven't heard, the United States House of Representatives, well, they didn't quite vote to ban TikTok. What they did do is pass a bill which said that if TikTok did not divest themselves of their Chinese ownership, and to be even more clear, TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which in turn is owned by the People's Republic of China, which of course is a communist country. There is really no free enterprise there, and all of the startup ventures, including ByteDance, which are part of China or are in China, are indeed owned and ultimately run by the Chinese government. So, the U.S. House of Representatives voted by an overwhelming majority. I think only a total of 65 members of the House of Representatives, a combination of Democrats and Republicans, voted against this bill. But the bill would ban TikTok here in the U.S. if in the next 6 months, if ByteDance either somehow didn't leave China or ByteDance divested itself of TikTok and therefore someone else, some other company other than in China, in turn bought TikTok. Now, that's a very bad idea for several reasons, and first and foremost, I think it's a really blatant violation of the First Amendment to our Constitution here in the United States. And you can, look it up on the web. The part of it that is most pertinent to what Congress did last week says Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech or the press. Now, I did hear one clever congressman saying, well, we're not banning anyone's speech, we're banning the reach of TikTok. Well, as I said, that's clever, it rhymes, but I think it misses the crucial point. Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech or the press. And last time I checked, the press is a mass medium, the press is reach, not speech. And so I think the only reasonable conclusion is that when the founding fathers put the First Amendment into our Constitution and it was ratified and therefore became part of our Constitution, they were concerned not only with speech but indeed reach, because back in the 1790s, the only way you could reach people was through the press. So we have that serious problem with what the House of Representatives did. But there are a host of other problems as well. Over 160 million people in the United States use and presumably enjoy using TikTok. Many of them, most of them, are in their 20s and teens, and I think it's really wrong to, in effect, just in one fell swoop, threaten to take away something that these people get so much out of when they use it. Now, I know that not all the information on TikTok is perfectly accurate. You know what? That's true of the New York Times. That's true of MSNBC. It's certainly true of Fox News. So this is not something in which we can ever expect perfection. No communications medium is free of misinformation and, unfortunately, sometimes even disinformation. But there are several surveys out there that show that actually, of the major social media, Facebook and X, formerly Twitter, have far more misinformation and disinformation posts than does TikTok. And in any case, I think it's, again, just wrong to, in one fell swoop, deprive 160 million people in the United States. I don't care if many of them are kids, they have rights too. They're human beings. They're entitled under the First Amendment in our country to use whatever communications media they like, as long, of course, as it's not criminal activity that's being protected on that communications medium. So let's look a little more closely at that. The reason that the people in the House of Representatives, our elected representatives, voted so overwhelmingly to threaten TikTok like that. And by the way, chances are the Chinese government is not going to agree to have ByteDance divest itself of TikTok. So it is, in effect, a ban, and the ban is explicitly being threatened. But the reason that most members in the House of Representatives gave for their vote is they're uncomfortable with what they see as a national security threat with the People's Republic of China, a totalitarian government for sure, and the people in Congress are concerned that that government, just having that kind of access to so many people in the United States, is a national security threat. Well, I can understand somebody having that feeling, but to ban TikTok, to deprive 160 million people of this app that they so much enjoy and even benefit from using, just because we're concerned here in the United States about the national security threat, well, frankly, I think just being concerned is not a good enough reason. I'd like to see some proof. I'd like to see some evidence. And we're living anyway in a world rife with cancel culture where people are fired from their jobs, all kinds of things like that happening. And often, or maybe not often, but all too often, that happens not because somebody is found guilty of doing something in a court of law, not because there is strong evidence that everyone agrees upon is valid evidence that someone or some corporation is doing something, but just because there's a feeling of unease. So, as many other people have said, I think Congress was way, way too fast. The House of Representatives was way, way too fast to pass that bill. Now, as far as what's going to happen with that bill, in case you didn't know this, it next goes to the United States Senate. They have to either pass the bill or send it back to the House of Representatives with suggested changes. I'm glad that we have that bicameral process here in the United States where it takes two houses to pass a bill before it gets sent to the president. And I hope that the Senate looks at this carefully. Again, if there is proof that the Chinese government is using TikTok to conduct espionage in the United States, well, that's a crime. But again, just a feeling of unease, of discomfort about a national security threat that is far different than a crime. And it shouldn't be, and it isn't, I think, a basis for so blatantly violating the First Amendment. Now, Joe Biden, currently president of the United States, and he's running for re-election, he said he'd sign that bill into law. I hope if the Senate passes the bill that Biden does not sign it into law. Who knows? Maybe he or his advisors will listen to this podcast. I'm not the only one, though, who is saying this, who is making this point. And the truth of the matter is, I think that we, the American people, need to stand up for our freedom of expression. And to ban something that is being used by 160 million people, more than 160 million people, I think you have to have really strong evidence that that system that's being banned, or they're threatening to ban that system, there has to be really strong evidence that it's being used in a criminal activity such as espionage. And last but not least, I'll just mention another point. Money is a good thing. We here in the United States, we're not a socialist country. We believe in capitalism. There are a lot of people making money from their use of TikTok here in the United States. What about them? I don't know if people are actually making a livelihood from that, but it doesn't matter whether somebody is making 10 cents or $10 million. I don't know if anyone is making that much from their use of TikTok. But whatever the amount of money that an American is making from her or his use of TikTok, just taking that away from them, that doesn't seem to me to be right and fair as well. So I will try to do another podcast on this after we see what the Senate does with this bill that the House of Representatives sent up or over to the Senate. And I'll certainly be back here next week with another episode of Light On, Light Through.
The Light On, Light Through podcast.
And I hope you found this political opinion episode of Light On, Light Through. I do that every once in a while when an episode seems important to put out there about a pressing political topic, usually involving communications. I'll, of course, be back here next week with another episode of Light On, Light Through. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sound, and keep doing whatever you can to help those brave people of Ukraine fight off those Russian fascist invaders who are trying to take over their country.
The Light On, Light Through podcast.
Athens, 2042 AD. She ripped the paper in half, then ripped the halves, then ripped what was left again into bits and pieces of history that could have been. Sierra Waters had read once that, years ago, it was thought that men made love for the thrill, while women made love for the sense of connection it gave them.
Curled Up with a Good Book says, Sierra Waters is sexy as hell. You can find out more about The Plot to Save Socrates by Paul Levinson at theplottoSaveSocrates.com.
Your brilliant story, it's real life.
Paul Levinson Silk Code, about an ancient biotech war raging on in secret for centuries.